Molly, so you're gonna be recording this, right? Molly, you gonna hit?
There it
Okay,
goes.
there we go.
Yep.
Nice. It's gonna
There
be
you go.
recording. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Waters. I'm an account executive here at Bales and Associates. Welcome to today's Informative Friday presentation. Today's topic is what to expect when moving from S3 to the cloud HCM. Before we get started, and if you're not familiar with Bales, I'd like to take a second to tell you a little about who we are. We were founded in 1995 by Jamie Bales. We've been a partner in the part of the partner community since 1997. We provide full human capital management cloud suite and finance and supply chain management offerings, including technology components. We have deep roots in Lawson and Infor implementations. We were involved in development of the Infor Cloud Suite and delivered initial Cloud Suite training program for all Infor and all the partners. The average tenure of our consultants is 15 plus years. And a little over 2 years ago, we became a subsidiary of Nordic Consulting. Today's session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants. If you are not registered but would like to receive the link, please email molly.velasco@billsllc.com to request the link. Again, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. Let me turn it over to our presenters, Niki Kimball, who is our HCM ERP Solutions Practice Manager, and Kellie Gilbert, who is our Director of Service Delivery ERP Solutions. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Well,
thank you, Brian.
A little bit about me, Niki Kimball, HCM Practice Manager. I have guilty of one of the ones that are 15 plus years of experience with the Infor product. Been a consultant, been a user, and have been doing a lot of the upgrades to the new GHR. Not so new anymore, but been doing that most recently, and that's the main experience. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Kellie, did you want to say introduction?
Oh, sure. I'll just make it quick, I promise. Kellie Gilbert, Director of Service Delivery here at Bales and Associates. I, too, am one of the guilty ones that have been a client before I became a consultant. I have started out back when Infor was Lawson in '94, and have graduated and gradually grown with the product through the years, and looking forward to talking with you today.
Thanks, Kel. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. This is a very large presentation today. We're going to go over a lot of material. The link to the recording and the copy of the presentation will be sent to everybody, like Molly put in the chat. So thank you for that. So you will be getting all this information. Just get started with this disclaimer. We do have to present a disclaimer on this material for version 11. The presentation is for informational purposes only. There is a lot of information in it, and it's going to go on our YouTube channel. We highly recommend that you contact Bales to discuss any solutions that need to be tailored to your specific needs. So that's the disclaimer, just to make sure that this doesn't cover everybody, but we're here to answer questions if you need anything else. Like I said, there's a lot to cover today. There's the dates, which recently changed. We've got things to know, and we're going to talk about each of the modules and how the changes moving to the global HR and what they are and what to look out for, and even how to prepare. Right. So we were writing this presentation when right before the dates changed. So we
yes.
had, so this slide had to recently be replaced in the last few weeks. So Infor announced that it would be December 31st, 2030. I think before that it was 2026. 2026, but still it's got pushed out a little farther. So they do have extended maintenance plans planned after the end of 2030. But we still are, I know we're going to see people moving forward. So we want to talk to you about things to know. So first off, it is an upgrade from S3 to GHR. However, we would like you to treat it as a re-implementation. And there's lots of reasons why. So we have done quite a few of these, and what we've learned is that you can't always stick the good old S3 setup in the Lawson S3 setup into GHR. You have much more functionality to use, and we want you to use it. It is so much broader way to set up a company, for example. It's not limited to process level department. We don't want you to try and replicate what you have. We want you to make sure it works for you, and you can processes can be approved along the way. We also want to make sure that you only are bringing in clean data. We just don't want you to pull everything that was in your old system and put it in the new. The same way we treat a new implementation from any other product. GHR allows for improved structure, setup functionalities. We want you to get the most of the new functionality. It is a lot broader, a lot easier to use. It's more user friendly. There are many more different ways to process and to build the system now. It's not as flat as it was in Lawson S3. You also can have process and data improvements along the way. So we like to treat it as a new implementation, so you can make sure you're using the best of the new product. Do want you to consider some things that we've seen over here on the right, things to consider: key integration. Sometimes you want to change all your job codes, change all your job code structure. However, if your timekeeping system is using those, your current one and the one you're going to stay with are using those job codes, you can't always change them. So there are some areas you need to evaluate to make sure you can redefine what the codes are, but you got to make sure all the other third-party vendors that are using that can also be changed and modified and upgraded at the same time. Recruiting software and other vendors as well. All right, there's a lot of new terminology when it comes to global HR, and one of the big terms is multi-tenant. Multi-tenant, what it is it's a cloud area that is a shared cost model. It reduces the investment, so you're sharing the tenant, the environment, with other clients, but it's highly secured. It's divided, it's maintained separately, but that way you can get all the updates all at the same time. Cloud Suite is another term you'll hear a lot. This is a collection of cloud-based products in the ERP. So you'll hear Finance Cloud Suite and Global HR Cloud Suite. Right there, it's just suites that are in the cloud. Simple. The core differences between Lawson S3 and the new GHR, the environment differences: cloud-based, and it Infor maintains and automatically updates the system for you. That's huge. It keeps everybody in sync, so that way they can handle issues better, and we can help also assist. So we're all on the same playing field. The navigational differences: it's role-based navigation, which means if I'm an administrator of benefits only, you're going to navigate to benefits and use those. That is your role in there. It's web-based, obviously, and it's a lot more intuitive. You don't have to remember form numbers, even though we all do. Consolidated menus, which they're actually flow charts. Oh, the menus are the flow of the way you process. And then there's dashboards, which are really great. Integration differences: the data flows freely in between all the modules in real time. So, and there's a lot of modules too, and I'll show you that in a few slides. It's all integrated. The reporting differences: the real-time reporting can be personalized, published, and shared using user-defined security, which is great. And I'll show you examples of the reporting later as well. It's so individual, and it's so maneuverable that you can change it on the fly. If you need to add, one field to this report, you can do it, send it to CSV, and you've got your report. So it's really, really easy to get the report you need. Okay, so here's what we're talking about: full integration. So if I change an employee on their resource record or their employee record, it actually in real time can be seen by all the other modules. This is the global HR module set. So it includes all of these, including payroll. When it comes to all the entire Infor HR talent modules, there's a lot more going on, because we've got the goals, performance, learning and development, succession, and also the talent acquisition in there as well. So this is the whole kit and caboodle. And like I said, if you make a change on an employee, it is seen and can be dealt with in every single module at the same time. All right, so things to look forward to. Automation, integration, and security. We just talked about the integration. We'll talk about the automation in a little bit, but there are delivered workflows that help automate processes for you. And you can provide tools to make informed decisions to maximize success in their roles. So with Infor HR Talent, you get more than what's offered in your current Lawson solution. You just saw the big picture. There's a lot more modules and a lot more information that you can glean from that employee record or pull out into different modules. But it's one whole suite that has a lot of different workflows and automation to help you get things done. So it's a true end-to-end ERP. So first we'll talk about some of the Infor delivered tools, the functional tools. And this is where I talk about a different terminology. So you will get a copy of this presentation, so don't worry about it. Configuration console, and this is a delivered way to customize fields and forms. And I know we're afraid of that customize word, but what this does, it allows you to make the system work for your needs. If I want to create a user field on the fly, I can. It's a technical function, but it's a lot easier. S3 did not have, if you changed, it was hard to change field names and get new forms and get more functionality. This configuration console is delivered, and that allows you to customize the things the way you need it to work or what you want to see on the screen. Conversion file formats are delivered every month with the CUs. There's a new conversion file format that are released, so those are up to date. There are built-in cross-reference mapping, so you can use those for imports and export files. It's instead of trying to maintain them in an interface or in a different format, it's actually built into the system. And that's where file creation utility comes in. This is a delivered way to create the export files, and you use those cross-reference tables and you map them right all in the system with a lot of visibility, and that way the functional team can update the mapping instead of having to modify or have the tech team modify an interface every time a new job code is added, for example, or a new pay code. There are actually some new history conversion business classes that allow for loading of history with limitations, and it's also kind of a separate area. It's not always equivalent to the drill around and stuff like that for employee history, but it's a separate set of tables that stores the history for you. Import business classes can be used to kind of stage the data when you are converting or you're bringing in a lot of information. It works great. It checks for errors. Security roles. So there's delivered security roles and that you're given right out of the gate, and you can modify them as you go. When it comes to Infor delivered project tools, in the project of upgrading to GHR, there is a couple of tools that can help you. Infor deployment methodology is what Infor and their partners used to deploy and integrate the product or implement the product. And then process intelligence. The cool thing about this is Infor delivers some workflows that help the client and the consulting team understand what the current processes are and what the recommended processes are. And that way you can help best decide how to use it in the future. All right, any questions out there? Am I doing okay? Everybody having a good day?
No questions right now.
I'm having a great day.
All right, so we're going to jump into HR talent and what the changes are with that. So global HR has many improvements and benefits, and if anybody can on the Bales team can think of any more, jump in, please. So the HR organization units. So org units are equivalent to little process levels and departments if you want. But the cool thing is you can have as many of them as you want, and you can have many more levels than just the 3 that you have: company, process level, and department in Lawson S3. So you can make it a much more dynamic organization structure. It can be different than the manager supervisor structure. And then codes, one of the big things that's always been hard for us is the codes can have more characters, right? So for the positions and jobs, when you're limited to 3 or 4 or 8, for some of these in global HR, there's 12 or more in most of these. But again, if you're changing, you need to be mindful of third-party vendor requirements and limitations. So with all of those, you have more ways to do smart coding. For example, if you want to include department and GL in there, you can. So that opens up how the codes can be used. Infor HR Talent includes these universal features as of dating. So if I do a future dated action in the system to an employee, it's not going to show up on the screen as of today. So say I do it for March 1st. But if you change this little button that says, I want to change the as of date of what I am looking at, you can change it to March 1st and it will show up. This goes backwards and forwards. There's also audit logs. So Kelly, did you?
No, I'll wait till you finish the audit logs and then we have something in the chat. So finish your audit logs and then we'll.
All right. So the audit logs are the coolest thing. So you can track history changes that are made in a separate table, and you can it pretty much saves a snapshot of the whole line of data of the employee. So you can see what changed on what day. You can go and compare one change to the next. But it's a great tool in the new HR Talent that you can look back and see the audit logs of what actually happened to a person. Kel?
All right, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
So Candace, we might need to bring you this one in because this is like a chicken and the egg thing. New user setup, and of course it's Godwin for BHB. New user setup in GHR and Mingle or FSCM. Which one comes first?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
if you're using GHR, which is where you'll bring in your employees, and you have user provisioning turned on in GHR, which we liked for people to have turned on, then what's nice is if you do that, you can create the employee in GHR, let user provisioning link your actors and agents, set your email, and you have the ION bots turned on. It will go create your Mingle user for you, and it will keep your users synced up. So ideally, having those pieces on together is going to create the easiest process for you to handle.
All right.
Thank you, Candace.
Welcome.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I saw you were online, so sorry.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And that actually isn't one thing that's even on this sheet, is it? It's one of the new benefits with improvements, which is, user provisioning. So thank you for that. Some of the other stuff is delivered workflows. Employee actions such as hire, rehire, and change pay rate come with workflows behind them. And what does that mean? That means there's a delivered process set of approvals. So if you want to put in a change, have a manager put in a rate of pay change, you want to make sure the comp director approves it. It can route to the right people, get the approvals, and then it will process in the system. Lots of those. I think there's over 60 now that are delivered just in HCM alone. So those are amazing. You can use them, you can modify them, or you can even turn them off if you don't want the approvals in the system. There's a new feature that's an address lookup. And I know that we have been working on that with a few of our clients. That's January, February CUs have been updating that feature, and Infor has purchased a third-party vendor to do an address lookup, just like it does on Amazon, and make sure that the address that you key is the universal one, so that way BSI can handle it correctly. Configuration console, we talked about that. Field changes, field label changes, user fields on forms, moving around the forms where they are on the screen. That kind of stuff makes it easier to make things your own. Again, with technical support. We don't want you just going out there willy-nilly. But employee and manager space, it is very dashboard driven. It is function, and for example, the manager dashboard shows the employee, and then it has these pretty tiles where you can look up each aspect of that employee all in one place. It gives you access to all functionalities as needed. Again, you can you can remove or add as needed based on what you're using in the system or what you want your employees and managers to see. But it is real-time interactions. Email automation. So this is something that is delivered with the system. Most modules have delivered email options, and emails can be used GHR field based on the employee. So you can write a generic email that says, "Dear employee name," and it will pick up the right employee name that you're trying to, that is related to the action, and you can pick up, their manager's name, and you can pick up information, their position information directly from that email, and it will pull it right in. So it's very integrated with the system and the action that you're setting it up for, and it's all delivered. Resource record. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you why it's called a resource record. The HR 11 that we all know and love is the employee record. In GHR, it's called resource record. And the reason why is because it is no longer just for an employee. It is built so it can have non-employees in the system, and you can have different statuses to identify that and make sure that they don't get paid or don't get benefits. So it's called a resource record because you can have contractors, interns, trainers, anybody put in the system that you need to keep track of. If you needed to keep track of their badges or their security or anything like that, you can put them in the resource record with just minimal setup. What the resource record has is it does mimic the HR 11 in the sense that it's one core area for all the employee information. The at a glance, which is the main screen, has a lot of their basic information, personal information, and then their employee status and stuff like that. But there are tabs on the side. I don't even know if I have a screenshot of it, but that there's tabs, similar tabs to the HR 11, but it's on the side, that have everything. Personal information, dates and service. If you're using payroll, it'll have all your deduction and payroll set up. Performance goals, it'll show your talent profile, absence. So instead of having to navigate to different forms to see different information, it'll all be on this tabbed out on the left. So it's a really great place that stores all the employee information. What are they? Related forms, don't have them anymore, all right here. All right. So those are some of the changes. This is when you're going into it, or even before, there's a lot of things you need to think about, and you can even prepare before you go into the implementation and talk about some of these items. When implementing GHR in phase 1, I say phase 1 because it's recommended to do the core first and then add on the modules later. We've had a lot of success with just adding on, but a lot of times it's phase 1 and phase 2, like get the basics down and then add on the good stuff that's very helpful, but not required for certain modules, the core module, and getting them paid. So dates. You want to make sure that when you're building out the employee record that you define all the dates. Just like now you have anniversary and adjusted hire date and start date, but there's also more dates that you can use, just like you did back in S3, the benefit dates, but they're more generic. They're other dates you can use, but just make sure when you're defining, it's in the very beginning of the implementation, you take account what might be using those dates down the road. The same with a manager structure. When you're building that, make sure the manager structure makes sense to be exported to your timekeeping system, for example, and also making sure that in manager space or in self-service, it can be used for employee requests as well, and recruiting. So if you're going to be doing recruiting in the system, you need to make sure the structure is correct for the managers that'll be doing all that work. And that's where Bales can help, because we understand all the integration and the future possibilities of the system. All the position attributes, there are different ones that are used by talent acquisition, some are used by requisitions. You just got to make sure that you keep that in mind when you're building out the position codes and all their attributes. Same with jobs, they have job levels. Those are often used to define eligibility groups for absence or benefits. Say you have a manager plan or an executive plan for one of those. You can define that on the job as a level, and that way you can integrate it with the absence and benefits. Qualifications. These are huge if you're going to use all the modules to their fullest. Skills, competencies, education, they're used by succession, talent, hiring, recruiting, every aspect. You can actually use that in performance and base their performance on how well they're rated in these qualifications. So these are huge to be looked at from a full organization perspective. Another thing that's changing that's sometimes hard to understand is the former employee statuses. They're A1, A2, T1, and T2 are now 3 different fields. So that is relationship to org, relationship status, and then work type. And those 3 help you define, like I talked about before, resource, whether they're a contractor or employee, whether they're full-time or part-time, and whether they're active or terminated. So those 3 work together, and those can be used obviously in eligibility groups and custom groups, but they're also used throughout the system to determine what tasks and what functions can be used. Okay, so I know I'm going through a lot. Legal entity, I'm going to keep on talking. Legal entity is used for payroll and regulatory reporting. It's super important to make sure that that is defined correctly on the core company before payroll is implemented. If payroll is potentially done in a phase 2. Same with payment schedules. It drives how payroll processes. It's huge. So what happens when we do one of these at Bales is our core GHR consultants know what affects payroll and make sure that we either pull in the payroll expert or that gets talked about on how that's created so it does accommodate payroll and even absence and benefits in the future. Work assignments. Work assignments are a different concept. It is a separate table. Business class is what they call it in Cloud Suite. And this stores the position information, the stuff that makes this position unique for this employee. It is the PA 13. Is that what it is, Kel?
Yes, ma'am.
But it's on steroids. It has all the compensation information, for example. That's a big change. And it also has all the assignment information. So this drives payroll, and it could potentially drive absence and benefits. So what is built on the work assignment is hugely important down the road. And then we got to remember that one HR organization equals one finance enterprise group. It's a one-to-one there always. So that has to be thought about too if finance isn't getting implemented right off the bat. So I talked about how in GHR that it's 3 fields to one S3 field. So this is part of the mapping that you do at conversions, but relationship to org, relationship status, and work type are divvied up into 3 different fields. And this helps you slice and dice the data a lot better. It makes it more flexible. It makes it, you can use it for all kinds of situations here. This is just an example. This is very important, a solid base that's created for the rest of the system to make sure the integration is used to its fullest. And this is where we talked about the resource different types. You're a resource, but you can be any of these items, not just employee anymore. Talked about qualifications integration a little bit up above. It integrates with all the different modules, talent acquisition, performance management, and it's huge when it comes to learning development, which then works into succession. So all of these work together to use the qualifications to develop an employee and to maintain the employee over the years. Again, solid base is hugely important. The number of organizations is one of the biggest decisions you'll have to make. If implementing FSM, finance, supply chain management, it is required to have a one-to-one organization. That's hugely important. We've learned that over the last few years, that can make or break an implementation. Finance integration is huge. All organization level decisions must align with the needs of finance. In S3, they do also work that way, but it's really core or important to get that right up front. So before you implement Infor HR Talent, you must make several key decisions about your organization and how your organization can best use the features to reflect your current business processes, but you're also your future ones, because here's your chance to make them better. During your implementation, you set up the building blocks for organizations, and that's what's here on the right. Organizations and org units, locations, legal entity, payment schedules, jobs and positions can be a project on its own to get those cleaned up. I know a lot of us have been through that. Manager structures is also important to have built before you come to the table. It's a little different, and it's sometimes difficult to get it into the system you way you want it. So you want to have that cleaned up ahead of time. Competencies and skills, resources, and work assignments. We've talked about all of those. Data prep. We've talked about this. Positions, job codes, manager codes. Before you get to the table on a project, it's really good to have that data cleansed, make sure that they're active and inactivated where necessary, remove special characters. I know that ERPs over the years, that's something you've heard, but it really helps when moving forward into the new system to have those cleaned up. So interfaces can interface correctly. Validate attributes are correct and unique. Making sure you don't have 3 positions with the same values kind of thing. So manager structure is another one, review and correct to make sure that that's is working well. What I've learned is S3 allows for a lot of managers to be duplicated, to report to the same person, to even be the same person. You can report to yourself. And there are some things that happen in GHR that stops that from happening. There's roadblocks, there's errors, there's warnings that says you can't report to yourself, or there can't be 2 people in here unless you want it to be. So a lot of clients use user fields on the HR11. I think the limit is 99. A lot of people use all 99. Make sure you review those before you come to the table to make sure you're only bringing over the ones you need.
Well, the other thing though, Niki, is because Infor HR Talent Core GHR is so much more robust, they probably already thought about some of those things that you had user fields for. So let's make sure, we look at them. A, do we really, really need them? Or B, do we just need to map them into the new system, right?
Oh yeah, yep, definitely. Because you're right, there are a lot of new fields. Yep, available. Thanks, Cal.
You're welcome. I'm paying attention. I know you find that hard to believe.
Right. Another one is employee data cleansing, just on the employee level. Addresses. This slide was probably before the addresses, the new address lookup came in. So, but you do want to check for special characters, commas, stuff like that. HR11 review. So review all the fields that may be migrated. And if you have a checklist, if I want these all migrated, it'll help the consultants in the future. So, okay, so this one's a new field in GHR. We can use that. We don't need a user field for this. So any work ahead of time is that can be defined what you actually need will be great. User fields, supervisor structure, define fields that are used in different ways than Lawson defined use, right? If you're using a field a different way, sometimes that throws the consultants off or throws the implementation off. But that's one of the things that we're seeing. HR Talent has those new fields, right? That the HR11 didn't have. So that way we can map that to the new and improved field. Whew.
That was a lot, Niki. Breathe.
I know.
Take a drink of water.
A few more things to go. Benefits and absence.
Niki, I'm just going to give you a time check that you're at
Okay.
35.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Halfway through this, so we might have to, there's some stuff at the end that we can leave off and further review the people on here after. So plan improvements for both benefit plans and absence plan. For benefits, evidence of insurability. It enrolls the employee for the guaranteed issue, which is huge. And then the overage stays pending on another table. It's great. Open enrollment improvements. The experience is much easier, and the administrators have a better way to view the enrollments as they're in process to get the statistics and the data that you need to say, okay, how many people have completed, how many, what are still in process, that kind of thing. It's also a little easier to modify to make it your own instead of having an HTML coder standing by. Life events, they offer more options for the online enrollment, transfers Cobra. It's a lot easier to set up and use. Data views, show more data in one place for the plan and employees for employees and administrators. So it's easier to get a snapshot of your current benefits. And there's also a lot. Yep.
I would say the other really cool thing is life events and open enrollments is because Infor HR Talent allows so much automation. You could set up all those email templates with attachments that go right out to the resources, and it just makes your life so much easier.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, Kel.
Mm.
When it comes to absence, leave of absence module is integrated with core HR and the resource records. They just added some new functionalities to that to make that a lot easier as well, to be able to change the status of the employee instead of just tracking. A time off request can be activated in employee space. That is if you're using, the absence modules. If you want them to get approvals inside there, they can do that. Link tables are available to access balances from secondary plans. So say you run out of a balance here and you want to borrow from a link table or link plan, you can do that. There's some new stuff on buy sell plans. Finally, right? There's some good functionality with that integrates with benefits. Data views again shows all the information in one place for the employees and the administrators. And there's us data access, the more reporting options, and we'll talk about that later. So here's a snapshot of a dashboard for benefits processing. It puts it in different squares so you know what's going on and what you have to do when. It's amazing. The process on the in the black here, it actually, the screen is set up to go in the order that you have to do things. It's great. Just go down this list. And then you can choose what is actually displayed on these dashboards. I have everything selected here. So you can, if you're not going through open enrollment, you can remove that, or ACA time period, you can remove that. So this is customizable as well. Same with absence. Dashboards help organize all the processes. I love, love, love the new cycle processing for absence and for the payroll piece. You just go down the line and do your thing. You don't have to change from form to form. This will always stay here on your left, this guide, this process list. So data prep, I think for both absence and benefits, validate employee groups, define exceptions. That's huge. You got to make sure that you document all your exceptions to the plans, and minimize, try and get rid of as many exceptions as possible. Inactivate old plans, codes, groups not being used, and gather all the plan documents for benefits and absence before you come to the table, and to make sure the system's doing what the benefit plans are supposed to be doing currently, and if you need to make any changes. So lots of stuff to review. Another thing is when you're coming to the table, when you're going to be writing new vendor files, make sure the existing interfaces, what the requirements are, and verify the file formats that are needed for the future, because sometimes they change. They change over time. Okay.
The fun one, best one ever.
This payroll is amazing. Now, Kellie and I were both skeptics, honestly, in the beginning, because we were S3 payroll users to the hilt. And it has become a very robust and intuitive process. Tons of improvements, security roles, streamlined setup, system of record for all employees, right? Payroll lock action. This allows you to actually lock the time record. So if there's an employee change, nothing
Mess
will
up your
affect payroll, right? It'll just stop everything from touching it. Automatic updates in the cloud, obviously, as regulatory requirements change, the cloud helps with that. It updates it for you. Enhanced reporting, which is improving day by day. Fully integrated, flexible to fit your business needs. So when it comes from a strong foundation that builds off 40 years of history, and they use it. They don't try and do something new. They don't try and change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they move a lot of the functionality over. And BSI remains the tax engine. So there's quite a few improvements. And the payroll setup is basically the same, which is nice because it's intuitive. But the setup screens are all in one form. And here I just get to have the top of one screen. So for the pay structure, it has it all outlined in a tab format. So it's all in one place. So it's called pay structure. So the summary group, pay codes, classes, the relations, a shift, all in one place. So it's really nice. You just have to, it's easier to navigate. The deduction structure, the garnishments, and the bank setup are the same. The BSI login connection is in the system. Like it's on the front end. You put in the username and the password of the correct location that you want, or the BSI version, and it's right there and you can see it in real time. It's great. There's also payroll delivered content that if they need to make a change based on regulatory or improvements that are coming, not just with the CUs, we recommend that you check payroll delivered content on the weekly basis to make sure everything's up to date. But all you do is you say, okay, is anything new coming in for garnishments? Is anything coming in for tax authorities or stuff like that? And you can just load it yourself to say, check for updates. Okay, go ahead and put it in. It's great. So the ability to allocate with more bandwidth jobs that need it. Okay, that's a weird sentence. So you can give more power to different jobs if it takes longer. So the way that the system works is you can say, I have a certain amount of what they call them is threads. I have 20 threads and I want to put all my power of those threads to process the calculate payroll because I want to take it, make sure it has the power and it doesn't take too long. You can allocate, so many threads to that job and it can process faster. So you can move it up, move it around based on what your needs are. It's great. Again, a more dashboard driven process. BSI messages are in Infor, are on the payroll screens. You don't have to go back to look at BSI for those messages. And again, the connection is maintained right there in HR payroll. Shift differentials. You can do these by custom groups. Changed my world. Made a big difference. We talked about the lock payroll action. Regulatory reports, you can copy and paste directly from the forms that are produced in payroll. Some changes we want you to know about. Payroll is run by payment schedules instead of, I guess, yeah. So the payment schedule is similar to the pay plan, but that's how it's run. That's how you keep them separate. Active work assignments used instead of status for payroll eligibility. So if they have a work assignment, they're gonna be able to have a time record.
An active work assignment.
Yes.
If it's inactive, trust me, nothing happens.
Yep. The world stops.
Found that out the hard way, but yeah.
So there's also the delivered coding stuff that you don't have to set up. Tax authorities, categories, provider codes, year ends, rates, and limits. Those are all delivered now, which is nice. Here is a snapshot of the payroll dashboard. It has everything you could ever want, right? It's got the cycles, what's in process. So if you just want to get a snapshot of where you are or where the payroll team is, if there's more than one of you, you can see it all here. All in one place. Processing time records. Again, this is one header screen you can see in the background where all the different statuses are all in one place. So it's so much easier to manage. One form, one business class, which is a table with multiple tabs, and you can, with the menu driven grouping for all of those time records. Again, here is on the left, the navigation through all the time records. Great. When it comes to processing, here is the screen where you do all the processing. It's one place. One place. You move the time records, you delete them, you can calculate, assign tax deductions, which is the PR 113. You can lock the payroll and that locks the changes, any changes from affecting it. And then you can calculate the payments and print the payments all right in one place. Right. Data prep. Same as a lot of the other ones. Validate employee groups, deductions, pay codes, pay classes, all the information that goes along with it. Inactivate any deductions or pay codes that are no longer used. Review and update payroll checklist. Now, this is kind of important to make sure that it is current. There's a lot of times that we walk in and that a lot of things they don't use anymore, they don't do anymore, but an up-to-date checklist would be great at the start of an implementation. So also make sure what you're using for employee space or validate a lot of the core setup. So there are different ways to use payroll enablement. Excuse
God
me.
bless you.
So you have to enable payroll in HR Talent before you're going to use it. So if you're a new user, there's the simple way to do it. Just, you turn on the payroll and start from there. When it comes to moderate, if you're already an existing global HR user and you want to start using payroll, there's some stuff that you have to do. You have to do the data transformation. The third one, existing global HR and at least one of the following benefit plans, absence. If you use export time records, or if that's a complicated one, so the data transformation may be a little heavier of a lift at that point. But depending on where you are, the data transformation and enabling of payroll may be easy, or it may be a little more complex. There is a good course out there on Infor Campus about the differences between S3 and the global HR payroll. It's really good. It's really good. So I highly recommend that. All right, so I'm at 47. I'm gonna run through reporting real quick. Reporting is great. Drill down, you can drill around the same way that you could in S3. Filter, so at any list on any screen, if there's a list, you can filter it. There's a header way that you can say include jobs that start with the letter H, and it will filter it for you right in there, and it's a real-time report. There is an on-demand report engine where you can create reports that you can reuse every time. And they're in the system and visible in a report section, and you can distribute those as well to other users. Any list that you have in the system, this is really huge, you can personalize. And what does personalize mean? You can make the fields in the order you want them. You can add fields, you can remove fields from any list that already is delivered, make it your own, and then export it to CSV. Now you can have these lists exist the same, but one thing that I've been doing is if I need to report on who has workers' comp state, I can personalize the report in real time, change to add that, and then export it. And then the next time I need information, I just keep changing and keep personalizing it. So it's very, very robust, I'm going to say. You also have print files. You can save customer related reports, and you can make it a private folder, or you can share those reports. I said that earlier. The programming language is LPL, which is landmark pattern language. If you want to get more complicated into the report writing, but most of the report writing tools have logic in there to have builders in there for you, so you don't have to know that. And then you can, like I said, you can easily export in PDF or in CSV. So this is a list of the tools of the different ways that you can report out of HR Talent. Oops, wrong way. There's some examples of creating reports or personalizing lists here, and it has the builders right there as an example. When it comes to technical improvements, IPA conversion. So this is S3 to GHR, mapping of S3 tables to business classes. Security configuration console. There's a lot of tech wins when it comes to moving up to the cloud. And we talked about the delivered flows. You can track work units. Async is an upgraded job scheduler. It is, you can watch things happen and work errors that way. Mingle is the pretty much the presentation of it, and there's a level of security all its own there. And we talked about multi-threaded queues. Okay, I think I'm done. There are 2 pages here of new terminology when it comes to functional and to technical. I am going to leave that to you to look at on your own. I talked about a lot of information today. I thank you for bearing with me, and Kelly, thank you for helping me.
My pleasure.
Today is the last of the Informative Fridays for this session. The next quarterly ones will start in May. So keep an eye on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Work Out Loud. We'll publish them there. More and more topics to come. And if you want to, if you have any questions that you think that we can help you with, if you want to see a demo or learn about a specific module, we're happy to help. We're here. It's called Coffee with Consultants. Schedule this with go to balesllc.com or send us an email through that website, and we will gladly take a half hour or an hour of our time and sit with you and talk with you about your concerns. I did it.
Well done, Nikki. And
Good
you
job,
only had the
Niki.
one question.
I know. It's a lot of information, I know.
And I'm going to be very honest to everybody that knows S3 that's on this phone from a payroll aspect. The hardest challenge is, because I'm old, please remember that, is mapping the S3 terminology into where it is and how you find it in GHR payroll. So I don't know, okay, it used to be the PR Web 40. Where is it now? How do I do it? However, the processing is so much easier because it's all on one screen. But wouldn't you agree, Nikki? It's just getting
Yeah.
that conceptual of, okay, where do I go find this? Where before I just did a form transfer, or I just went my search button, typed in my form because we've been doing it so long and it just popped up, to where now, how do I navigate to get there?
Absolutely. Yep.
Actually,
And it's much more, it's much more
same for
intuitive.
everything. Yeah.
It is.
And then learning if you do have an issue or an error, learning what it means. That's
Yes.
always fun to learn too.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about ISD, which is the equivalent to Microsoft add-ins for Spreadsheet Designer, which is, again, something I was concerned about, but it actually is a lot better. It gives you real-time error messages or warning messages, and it changes color. It's
Yeah, it's
so
great.
much
If
more
it's
fun to
red,
use.
it means you messed up. If it's green, it means you're good to go. That's how easy that one is.
Yep. Yep.
It also maps your fields, Nikki.
Yes. Yep.
That's the big one.
It's huge. Yeah. No more drop down A, B, C. As long as you
Exactly.
have the right header name, you're good to go. Absolutely. Thanks, Liz.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. I don't know, Molly, Brian, do you have anything that you want to go over at the end?
Hey, Nikki, on my end, no, great job. Thanks. You covered the coffee with consultant piece, so I'm good on my end.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Niki.
Thank you. Well, everybody have a great weekend. And thanks for coming.
Thank you, Nikki. Great
Thank you.
job as
Bye-bye.
always.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.